meeting of the village board back to order. It is 9:43. Our next item of business is to talk about 9A, consider snow removal and dumping plan for site at River Park parking lot. Tyler.
All right, so meeting number 3 on this. First of all, I just want to thank you for the committee of the whole and our last village board meeting on this, because I think your discussion was very helpful for staff, just to kind of get an inkling where you're at. I definitely want to thank the public too for attending those first 2 meetings, because their comments, I think, helped provide kind of a barometer too as far as where their thoughts were located in that. Based on some of the feedback and comments that you mentioned during those meetings, we had staff get together for a meeting to try to strategize a plan based on those comments and understanding, socially and politically and environmentally where we're at to try to figure out a solution. In the memo, I spelled out under the heading updates for October 1st Committee of the Whole, an actual plan as far as how it would work at the River Park parking lot. In summary, one of the attachments, I believe it's the first attachment in that memo, is a map. So as I talk about lot A, B, and C, that you can have some context to that. But a lot of the snow dumping activities would happen in lot C. That's the largest of the 3 lots. And most snow cycles, we would only need the southern half of that lot. So that would only impact up to about 30 cars, which we would be able to move to either lot A or lot B and be able to have them park there. So the good news is I don't think we would have to worry a lot of people parking on the street, and we wouldn't have to worry about really any revenue changes when it comes to the parking permit piece and that, which is good news. Really the only con or thing to really think about is if we end up needing the lot sooner, or if we get a lot of snow at once, it may prohibit parking or we might not be able to have parking during the month of December when the tree vendor is there. So that would be the one con to this proposal. Do you mind if I just go through first and then do questions? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. And so with that, we would have to have something in their agreement if we still wanted them to be there in lot B that, if there was an upcoming heavy snowfall, that we would ask them to leave the premise like 48 hours, whatever a reasonable time would be. Just understanding that we have parking obligations or parking commitments that we've allowed to people that have provided us funds. So I did have DPW provide a range as far as Wilson, as far as how much of the snow comes from the business improvement district, as Trustee Warren, I know you have inquired. 65 to 75% is that range that they have provided based on looking at GIS and that. So that kind of gives you a picture on that. The last thing I want to say is in the kind of the proposal that we outlined, we still have the business improvement district included because parking lot C would accommodate enough space for that. However, just know that you as a board tonight, if you still want to discontinue that practice, we can certainly do that. And I think one of the things to consider is just as far as, we've been talking about DPW staffing hours lately. So that's just one thing to maybe consider, that if we don't see that as high of a priority for DPW moving forward, that would be something that we can consider in the final proposal. Okay, I think that was kind of like my 3-minute overview, so I can take questions now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. You mentioned the only downside, and there was just that one. So in the original memo in the packet for number 3, dumping snow in the River Park, there were 5 things mentioned. I'm assuming that they've all been addressed. The one that in particular is, there's 2. It's the parking spaces for the baseball season, or for the, it says this would be a loss of spaces, where does it say it, for when the season comes in, for the recreation season, is that a potential?
I mean, if we, obviously, a winter, I don't even need to say this, a winter in, in Wisconsin is so unpredictable, right? So, yeah, we've had snow in April or May, and so if we have, a heavy amount of snow in those months, that's right, that would be another, potential, right? Now, usually talking with DPW and that, almost all the snow that they need to dump there is from from January through March. It's concentrated on those 3 months. And typically, you're gonna get enough days in March, typically, right? In quotations, typically, that you're gonna get a few days with, a 50-degree day.
It snowed in April this year.
Yeah, and so you could, so with a day like that, you can start to get quite a bit of snow to melt. Not to mention, yeah, you're gonna get another snowfall potentially in April and that, so there's risk to that. But for the most part, those are the 3 months that we're heavily looking at for, let's put, some significant dump piles to be placed on that parking lot.
I had another question, but trust me,
In response to that directly, the Little League spots are actually in Lot B,
B,
and those are available during the day, so that it would not be a conflict.
unless we're.
because parking lot C is only by permit. So-
Right.
Right, Diane?
And so
Right, so if you're parking for baseball or soccer, it's A or B that you're parking at, not C.
And if we moved people over, they wouldn't be there during the day.
Oh, they would just be
Those
there at
are
night?
Overnight.
It's 2 hour during the day on A or B.
Okay, so if we had to move the people, thank you for clarifying, move the people off of C in April and remaining on A and B, they'd be gone by the daytime.
Yeah, unless they have a special, we give out a few,
So lot C
why don't you answer
is
this one, Diane?
24-hour lot. So if we moved them over to A and B, I don't know that we concluded whether we would allow them to still stay with the 24-hour because A and B is a 2-hour. During baseball season, or, yeah, that's April, right? Baseball, softball. Can I say this? The police department has allowed the parents to park on lot C, and then we would just leave our parkers move to A or B, just to keep down confusion. So that might be what you're thinking about.
So, yeah, my concern would only be, sorry about that, was if the snow, I think it's gonna snow a lot in April coming up in the future, just because our patterns of weather is changing. And so whether that's right or wrong, it's a prediction. But if it did, and we needed the people, if we utilized most of, I think a lot of the space, I can't remember how many, but there was a significant amount, and we moved those parkers that are parking 24 hours to A or B, where do the people that are coming for recreation park? Maybe there isn't recreation if there's no.
Well, right now, they either park on
that
A
would
or
be
B,
number
or they
one.
park at the Hubbard, some park at the Hubbard lawn. Or the street would be the other option. I think the point I'm trying to make though is like, right now we have snow during December and November, but we don't necessarily, that's our first snowfall. So we typically have some room that we can do either around the lots or like in the business district. Like, since that's the first few snowfalls, we don't have to worry about snow removal at that time. Like,
Right, December. Right?
because it hasn't piled up yet. So a lot of the snowfalls, I think in April, I mean, you're gonna have some of that, melt away in March and that because of the, you're gonna get some nice, hopefully, which on average you get some nice days that help out that snow.
Okay.
So I don't foresee that being a significant issue, but like I said, weather is, it's hard to predict, so.
And the Little League board was not concerned about a shortage of parking.
Okay,
Did not
great.
make it work out.
Good to know. And my second question, trustee Maher, and I'll ask it.
How many 24-hour permits do we sell in the city?
About 50.
50 of them?
50
So
or
they're all
50
gonna
max.
move over to fill the others?
Usually December and January, it's a little bit lower because a lot of them are students, and so UWM is out for that month, and a lot of them won't buy. It's cheaper for them to pay
We're only
$2
closing the
per
south
month.
half, so it's only 30 of the 50 that would move in a traditional snow
So
system.
where do these people live? Along Oakland? Most of the students?
Oakland, they may be on Edgewood,
Okay,
but most of them are on.
okay.
Trustee Menta?
So, I would be in favor of the south part and moving the 30 to A and B, so we're not forcing anyone to go on the street or anything.
Okay,
But if it got to the north part, I'm not so happy about that.
okay. Do you have an alternative? Just so you know, for action required, I do have a suggested motion that if you want to make an amendment to the plan at all, that you can use that as a template, so.
I'm okay with giving DPW discretion about the business district, okay? But like if it's getting too much on the south part, I would say at that point, DPW needs to like
No
leave
longer.
some snow in the business district.
Okay.
But I think they should be able to manage that,
Okay.
don't you?
I think that's fair. I mean, what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if the south side were to start getting full, that we would allow the public works to use their discretion as far as halting removal in the business district and just leaving it the public lots for the space remaining in the south end of lot C. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I would.
Yeah.
So my only concern with that is, and I agree, but is that is not giving the business district or the businesses the heads up that they may need to do their own snow removal. So the only reason I say that is, all of a sudden now, oh, it's getting halfway full, and now DPW decides we're just gonna cut it off. Now we haven't really, the policy hasn't given any direction to the, they don't know what to expect. And so as a business owner, I'm just giving that perspective that I would rather know that my snow isn't gonna get moved unless blah, 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 so I can plan for it. So the other alternative, which is very similar to what Trustee Menta had mentioned, is leave the snow in the business district unless it's critical for safety. And I don't know if that's what we already do, or if we remove it just by practice. Is there a different level of removal? Because in that instance, then the businesses could then have the ability to say, well, that's not good enough for me, I really need a clear sidewalk, I need and then they could hire a service. So, is Leanne still here?
No.
Okay, so the question is, I think we covered this, but I don't remember the exact answer at the end. Do we do that? Do we just already say unless it's critical for safety? Or do we, by practice, clear the snow when it gets over a certain height, or?
Yeah, it's more of when it gets, talking with Joel and Leanne, when it gets a certain height, that's typically when, and they also get, quite a few phone calls when it starts getting to that point too, so I think sometimes that acts as sometimes a trigger for them to go out and just take a look at where the heights are at.
Because they use 4 occurrences in their estimations, which
Correct.
makes me think that their average is that only 4 times of all the snow a year do they have to actually begin that operation. And those 4 times is what accounts for the cumulative cubic square footage that they're accounting for. Is that what other people assume? Right? Okay,
Yeah, that sounds right.
so if they're only really moving snow 4 times, then I think it sounds like it's more of an emergency time, and that would take up the whole lot. So I didn't get clarity on that. I apologize.
But they're also saying that probably the south half, sorry if I'm interrupting, would be adequate. So
For those 4 times, okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pilot, we're just we can see, and it depends on the wind. It's not like we decide tonight when we're set for, if we find it's not working, or we need to look for another site, or move the part, this can be a project as the snow comes in, we
This was a point that I wanted to mention in my 3 minutes and I failed. We would want to, I don't know if we would in our communications call, use the word pilot, but essentially, or that's kind of what it would be, is after a year, we would reevaluate with staff, see if it worked, and especially if we, had an average or above average snow season to see how it would work. But based on kind of the parameters where we're at, as I mentioned, socially, environmentally and that, I think, this is kind of where we're at. So, I don't know if there's any other options or proposals, and I'm more than happy to provide perspective on that based on discussions with staff, but
So
this is what we felt was.
I think the proposal, and that's why I'm asking, my proposal is to leave it in the business district unless it's at a safe, unless it's posing a safety hazard, and DPW has some idea what
Do you
that is.
think DPW?
I just don't know if that's what's already estimated.
Okay. Like, is that, you're asking, is that already a today practice? And I would say in some cases, yes, and in some cases, maybe not. I mean, if they're getting a lot of calls from businesses and that, you know, maybe they've gone out a little earlier in the past, but, you know, typically there's a certain height that they know that they're removing the snow.
Yeah, but frankly, it's kind of chicken and egg, because if they're getting a lot of calls from businesses, it probably means that it is in fact a safety issue, so
Yeah.
kind of circle back around.
I don't know if it's actually a safety issue or if it's a nicety that the businesses want. I mean, so that's why I made that distinction, just, I mean, I don't want snow piles in front of my business necessarily, but
Yeah.
if it's not a safety issue, then that's where the clarification is. Yes, just you mentioned.
What are we doing with the Christmas tree lot then? I mean, don't we have to tell that guy, I don't think it's very feasible to say, you know, you're gonna have to move in 48 hours if we get a big snowstorm. I mean, I think we need to tell that operator yay or nay, you know.
That's, I don't disagree with that. That's completely up to you as a board. When, I think every year he submits a proposal to utilize that lot, and I think he pays $500 to utilize that. So I just, you know, that's where, you know, this is where you have a balance of different values, and when this comes in, I mean, ultimately, you know, the tree vendor versus kind of perking, you know, if you want to try to make somehow both work, that was kind of what we said in the proposal, but if you